Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the RavenCast for February 24th, 2017. I am Adam Erickson, and I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Lindsay Paris Lopez. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Adam. Hi, everyone.
How are you today?
I'm all right.
Good.
There have been some heavy things on my mind in the news. But personally, I'm doing right.
Yeah, it's been another crazy week in Trump world, and there's a lot to talk about. But before we do, I want to tell everybody that this is the RavenCast, a product of the Raven Review, an online magazine where we write and talk about mimetic theory and rivalry and violence and politics and crazy things that happened during the Trump presidency and scapegoating, how we scapegoat Trump sometimes too. Okay, all of these things that divide our country, and how can we work towards more peace and more goodness in the world is one of the things that we try to figure out at the Raven Review. Our motto is change your view, change the world. So if you like to hear new perspectives on religion, politics, pop culture, and cultures of violence and transforming into cultures of peace, come check us out at ravenfoundation.org. And today we are going to talk with Lindsay about two of the big hot button issues that have come up this last week: immigration and water protectors. This thing that is happening up in North Dakota with DAPL that's been going on for the last 2 years or so. And
right.
Now that Trump is in control, this thing seems to be going full speed forward. And Lindsay, I know that these two issues are heavy on your heart. They're heavy on my heart. We've also been writing a lot at the Raven Review about how to love your enemies, how to love your political enemies during this process. We're in what René Girard would call a mimetic crisis. And how do we navigate ourselves through this crisis in ways that can lead to more peace? How do we name it and lead to more peace is one of the issues that I'm struggling with in all of this. But how are you feeling?
It's a lot. A lot
yeah.
is happening. And it's not exactly new. Like you said, the pipeline has been going on for 2 years. And the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe has been camped out in various camps. The biggest one, I believe, being Shanty-Sacoan. They've all been cleared out by now. Relatively few people remained to resist and protest.
Yeah, Wednesday was the deadline for them to have to leave, apparently.
Yes. So a few people remained on, and I have tried to keep up with the live feeds, but I haven't been able to check in today. It's possible that everyone who remained has been arrested by now. Maybe some were allowed to move on. I don't want to just make assumptions. Maybe some were allowed to stay a little longer, clean up, and then leave without being arrested. But I'm not sure exactly of the very latest up-to-the-minute facts, but I've been keeping up with this issue. And the deportations, they're in the news now. They're getting a lot of attention. A lot of people are waking up, it's good that people are waking up. Things are becoming less safe for immigrant communities, but that has been an ongoing issue as well. I believe the number is 2.5 million people deported under Obama, which is staggering.
But it seems as though Trump is expanding the categories of people who can be deported.
Yes. From what I understand, President Obama, there were immigration policies in place that he had trouble reforming, but he was at least able to help to the degree that he had the policy of deferred action for childhood arrivals. So people who had been brought to the country as children were able to work towards citizenship and defer being deported. But 2.5 million on his watch is a staggering number. And President Trump is expanding the categories of people who are targeted for deportation, as well as expanding the immigration and customs enforcement all over the country, invoking law enforcement in local communities to help immigration and customs so that police officers are de facto immigration officers as well. Some cities are being sanctuary cities and resisting, and then there is retaliation for those cities that resist. So it's a hard time. And I see a connection between what's happening at Standing Rock and what's happening with the immigrant communities. So,
what's that connection that you're seeing?
Well, it's an ironic and sad connection. The irony is that our administration, our law enforcement, basically our country, our whole country, is made up of immigrants. We are, almost all of us in this country are immigrants or descendants of immigrants. Some came here by choice. Some were kidnapped as slaves and brought here. But the Native Americans are the only people who say that they're not immigrants. And they are now being kicked off of their land by immigrants who are cracking down on newer immigrants. So that is the connection I see, and the irony and the deep, deep, deep violence of this country that I think needs to be addressed and talked about.
Yeah, it's from the founding of our culture, and according to Rene Girard, mimetic theory, every culture is founded on violence, including the United States, and we tell stories to hide those acts of violence, and we've hidden them for much of our history. I mean, when I was growing up in grade school, I wasn't told. I was told the great stories of Christopher Columbus, not the violent stories of genocide that happened after we came here. So those are all stories that we are just beginning to grapple with in American history. I have books that are titled "Lies My Teacher Told Me." So you're right. These are stories that we need to start telling the truth about from our history, because we keep telling these lies. And one of the lies that we keep telling is, and that makes it hard to have these kinds of conversations. It's hard to see the truth in it because we live in a post-truth world. But one of the things that we keep hearing is, that the water protectors are the violent ones, and that the police are just trying to protect themselves. So who is the real protectors in here? Who are the real violent ones? The police have military grade weapons and trucks and all of these things, and it's all about, where do you see legitimate violence? And it's about how to make the enemy into the violent one so that you can appear to be the innocent victim in all of this. A lot of it is, and this is what the myth that Girard gets at, is how do you project violence onto the other? And this is, from what all I can see, is that the water protectors have remained largely nonviolent. There are, apparently, whenever there are stories of the water protectors being violent, those stories have been deconstructed, and oftentimes they get called violent for wearing goggles,
or protect your eyes from the chemical sprays.
Yeah, like that. That's a violent act. There are actually laws in North Dakota now that are trying to get passed through, where if you're protesting, you can't wear goggles anymore.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, I just saw it this morning.
To me.
Yeah, so this is just we're in this kind of crazy world, but this is what the myth that Gerard warns us about does. It projects violence upon another, and even if you wear goggles, that's a violent act.
Right. That's too much. That's just too much beyond sanity for me to try to figure out what I could possibly say to that. I have seen articles about other places, and there's a strong intention to suppress protests. And I want to be clear, when you're suppressing protest, you are suppressing the voice of people who are trying to speak out and say that what is happening is not okay. And it is what culture has been doing from the beginning, and that is silencing the victim. In this case, the victim is really a majority of people, but we are under the power of those with more power, more wealth, and I don't want to scapegoat them because they are human beings too, but I think what is happening is really the erosion of democracy and the rise of, we're already an oligarchy. It's getting worse, but also better, because more people are speaking up, more people are speaking out. Back to the water protectors, though, they have remained peaceful. Everything I've seen has been, on their part, has been peaceful and strong and resilient. And what they are doing is not only protecting their water and their sacred land, they're protecting the water of 8 million people. And it's devastating to think that this pipeline will in all likelihood go through, and the clean water source for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe could be polluted, and the clean water source for 18 million people could be polluted.
This is where we begin to scapegoat violence. This is where we begin to start moving when we start blaming one another for being violent is when we start being distracted from the main issue, which is that these pipelines leak all the time. Just like a month ago in Canada, there was this big giant leak from a pipeline that ruined water, and nobody can find where that leak was because all of this miles and miles of pipeline, there's just these little leaks that do tremendous damage to waters. So maybe the pipeline won't leak. Maybe it will leak. But these are the risks that we're taking, not just, and you're right, these Sioux Indians, they're not just doing it for themselves, but for the land and for, how many do you say, 18 million people who are down one of the biggest rivers in the United States.
But how do you call responsibility without scapegoating? There are people doing this for profit, and I do not blame the individual construction workers any more than I blame soldiers who are carrying out the policies that are made high above them. But how do you call responsibility without scapegoating? I struggle with that because I believe in the need for mercy and compassion and also truth.
Yeah, I think part of it is exactly what you're saying. You don't go after the individuals, you go after the policies. You keep the, how Gerard says that the object fades from view. You keep the object in front of you, which is clean water, right? That's the object in this one, and make sure that it stays there. I think the water protectors are doing a good job of that. Water protectors is keeping the object there. You don't go after individuals. It's what the New Testament says that you quoted recently in an article. It's the powers and the principalities, not flesh and blood, that we're going after. And I think it's also to acknowledge the good that the opponent is going for. There's some, beyond greed and wealth, there's some kind of good that they're looking for. Maybe it's to get cheaper oil to the masses. And then after that we can have a debate about better ways to do energy producing things than oil. But is there a good behind what these companies are trying to reach? Or is it just all evil?
You've set that up in a way that there is good in the people who are carrying out these policies. But as far as I can see, there's no good in the policies themselves. And I'll explain why. Because from reports that I have read, it is dishonest to say that we are doing this to end our dependency on foreign oil. Because this oil will not be just for domestic use. It will be sold on the foreign market. And we will still utilize foreign oil. If this pipeline were to produce all of the oil that we need, and we said we are therefore going to trim our military significantly because we do not need to fight wars for oil, and we now tell the truth that we are fighting wars for oil. That's not the whole truth, but it's an important part of the truth that we don't discuss. If that were the case, I would still want a better policy for our environment, but I could see so much good in it. And I could feel like I had an opening to talk to the people in charge of these policies, because if they wanted peace, then I could say, absolutely, I want peace too. Let's work together and find a way to make peace and also rely on clean, renewable energy. That being said, I do believe that this is a necessary job for the people laying the pipe, maybe the people producing the pipe, the people who are going to profit the most from this are already filthy rich. And
well, we know that Donald Trump is going to profit from it. So
right, he is.
Take that for a conflict of interest. So
as is Warren Buffett and others who are already very rich. I don't necessarily begrudge them their money, but they do not need to make more of it, and certainly not at the expense of the health and life of so many people. And I just have to be honest about that, because this is going to cause disease and death in a community that is already poor, and a community that has already been egregiously harmed and abused by my ancestors, by the whole lifestyle of consumption that we have invaded and taken over this country with.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be less than honest about that. So, and at the very same time that we are, that our country is allowing this company to lay this pipeline, our country is also cracking down on people who just came to this country to survive, and kicking them out. For many, this is the only place they've ever known. For others, they've left desperate situations. And while we are descendants of immigrants who are committing illegal actions, I want to distinguish that from illegal immigrants who are not illegal. But what we are doing, what our nation is doing, is committing illegal actions, breaking treaties, breaking laws of morality. And while we are doing that, we are rounding up innocent people who haven't done nearly the damage that we're doing right now and sending them away.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say anything positive. I want to bring the hope. Help me find the hope, Adam.
Well, the hope is that there are so many people protesting all of these acts. The hope is that there are people who have woken up. I mean, part of what Obama did was to make us fall asleep. A lot of, these acts that he did. How many immigrants did he deport? More than any other president before him. And
right.
liberals, we progressives did nothing. We said nothing about it. In part because he did it behind our backs. In part because we didn't want to see it, because we wanted him to be the savior of the United States. And we fell asleep during his presidency. And Trump is doing all of this right in front of our faces. And we're waking up. He's slapping us in the face on Twitter every day. And yeah, we're waking up. And we know that we have a mission. We know that we have a job to do. And we're doing it. We're going to go out. And we're going to do it. That is the hope that I have. I mean, a lot of us feel a renewed mission. I feel, in my church, in mainline progressive churches, we've often felt during the last 10, 15 years that we were dying. I think we're more alive now than ever because we see damage that is being caused and we have a voice to lift up. And we're starting to do that more and more. And part of it is by listening to the voices of those who we have marginalized for centuries. And we're listening to those voices now, I think, more than ever. And, part of the sad part about this is how divided our country is. 87% of Republicans like what Trump is doing. They may not like how he is doing it, what he is saying, how he uses Twitter, but they like his policies. And I hate his policies. I hate what he's doing with Obamacare. I hate what he's doing with immigration. And this North Dakota access pipeline thing it's awful. I mean, I see the emotion in your face, and I share it too. But the hope is that people are off their butts. They're out in the streets. They're on Twitter. Our voices are being lifted up, and that gives me hope.
That's true.
And this whole discussion about how to not scapegoat the other side also gives me hope too. I think more and more people are seeing that yes, we have to go at these policies, but there's a distinction between the policy and the person. So how do you, as Jesus says, love your enemies? Well, and also stand up for justice. You go after the policies. That's what you do.
That is absolutely true. And I do find hope in the awakening of our country, and I find hope specifically in sanctuary cities. And I want to talk about that real quickly because that is a concrete thing that we can support. And first of all, I understand that some people are against sanctuary cities on principle. Others may just be afraid at losing the funding that is threatened to be withdrawn for making a city a sanctuary city. So I want to speak to that because if you are someone who theoretically believes that the people who come into this country should come in legally and that we should crack down on those who don't, that makes a lot of sense. But I want to mention, number one, immigrating legally can be very hard or impossible. And then I want to talk about why sanctuary cities are a good thing and make us safer rather than less safe. So I want to talk about that a little bit. First of all, if you are an immigrant, if you are someone who wants to come to this country, you can only do so through employment, usually high-skilled employment, something that is needed and probably technical or difficult, like maybe just about any kind of doctor or in the field of technology, for example. You could probably come in pretty easily, legally, through a working visa that way. But if you're in that position, you may not be one of the most desperate people in the world. And if you are one of the most desperate people willing to do anything you possibly can to work to make a living, but you don't have those technical skills, then you need a specific family member, a spouse, a parent, or a child to be an American citizen living here. If you don't have that, there is no line. There is no protection. There is no way in. And so if you want a better life and you're trying to find it here and there's no legal way for you to do that, why would we shut our doors to someone who isn't the love for a country that you're fleeing to get into out of desperation isn't it self-evident? So from what I understand about immigration policy, it is not easy to come into this country legally. And it's not easy to come in illegally either. It's risky and it's dangerous. But if you are taking those risks, you probably really need to. And so I wanted to say that. So if you, hopefully, I hope that would help some people who just believe immigration should, just believe that people should come in legally. I hope that expands your perspective, and maybe we can work together on expanding the limits of legality.
Part of what I'm reminded of as you're talking is Gerard's statement about the double bind. So you've got this American mythos. Come to the United States because we're so great and we have so much to offer you. But then once you get here, we're gonna send you back because we really don't want you here. But we want to think that we're so great, so come on over. But when you get here, no, not so much. Go back. So it's this double bind message that we send to people. Are we great or are we not great? I think we're great, and I think that we can handle immigrants. And I think that immigrants have always had a lot to offer us. So come on over.
I think we can be great. I do think we can be great. I don't think we're exceptional. I think exceptionalism is our way of comparing ourselves over and above others, and that is the wrong way of thinking. People who are really confident don't need to be over and above others.
Right, exactly.
I believe that we could have a lot to offer. I believe that there is a lot of goodness and a lot of compassion here. And if we want to say that we're great because people want to come here for opportunity, then we need to provide opportunity, and we need to be compassionate and neighborly. We need to be all those things that we think people would want to come to this country for. We can't have it both ways. We can't say we're great, we're wonderful, we're kind, so get out of here. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Part of this, I think, and part of about how to become a more Christian nation, I think, Jesus, it's the story of the fish and the loaves. I love this story because the disciples are just under another myth, which is the myth of scarcity that every nation has. We never think that there is enough, and so there's this great fear that we have that if other people come, it's going to lower our standard of living or something bad is going to happen. But Jesus says there's enough, and that's what the miracle of the fish and the loaves is all about. There's enough. And you see this back in the story of Israel too, coming out of the Exodus, where God sends the manna and says there's enough, and just share. Because if you don't share, the food's going to spoil. And of course, the food is a metaphor for the relationships among you. If you don't share, your relationships are going to spoil. And sharing is based on the principle of abundance. There's enough for everyone. Just share.
Yeah, just share. Because the world can sustain our need, but not our greed, as Gandhi, who was a Hindu, said, and Christian wisdom and Hinduism. And I want to bring in some wisdom from Islam, because that's another area where good, wonderful people are being scapegoated and misunderstood. But the Quran says, "O mankind, we have created you from a single pair, male and female, and we have divided you into tribes and sub-tribes so that you can come to know each other." And that's so beautiful to me that we have our differences, our cultures, our languages, have differences so that we can have a spark of curiosity inside us to go and get to know the other person. I mean, I just find that so beautiful. The Quran goes on to say that the best among you is the most righteous. If we understand righteousness as godliness and we understand God as love, then we can easily say the best among you is the most loving. The most loving people are the ones who realize they don't need to be the best. They just need to love as much as they possibly can. And I think that's what we need to do. But I think John Lennon might have said it best when he said, "Imagine all people sharing all the world." But I think we do that. Why can't we just do that? That's I don't know, that was more hopeful than a rant. That was my anti-rant.
Well, let's end with your anti-rant. I like that a lot. Yes. Let's work towards a world that shares better. Let's try to do that. I like that idea a lot. So thank you, Lindsay, for doing this kind of last-minute RavenCast with me. Everybody, you can stay up to date on the RavenCast by joining the RavenCast group on Facebook. You can also like the Raven Foundation Facebook page. If you are watching on YouTube, please like this video. And if you are listening on iTunes or Stitcher, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review and a nice comment. One more thing, go on over to the Raven Review at ravenfoundation.org and subscribe, and that way you can make sure that you can stay up to date on all of our articles and on interviews like this one. Please join us next Thursday for what I hope will be a live RavenCast where you can join us as a live audience. Stay up to date on our Facebook pages for that. Until then, grace and peace be with you. Bye-bye.